Hey, everybody, welcome to Downballot Roundup in partnership with Leave No Dem Behind, where I introduce you to Democratic candidates running in local elections throughout the country. I'm Brian Randolph, and today I'm here with Sheryl Johnson, who is running for the U.S. House of Representatives to represent South Dakota's 1st District. Sheryl, it is great to have you here today. How are you?
Wonderful, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's so nice to have you, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am Sheryl Johnson. I am running for our only district. South Dakota only has one district, so it's the whole state that I would represent. I'm running against a career politician, and I always tell people I'm a farmer's daughter. I am a former Navy wife. My husband was deployed from Camp Lejeune during the first Gulf War, and so for 8 months I was a single parent to my 2-year-old daughter at that time. And I'm also the mother of 4 daughters, which is one of the reasons I decided to run. Here in South Dakota, they had a trigger law for the abortion ban. It's one of the strictest in the nation, and I just thought it was ridiculous. And so it kind of influenced me to run for office.
Excellent, excellent. And can you tell us? Usually I ask about your district, but tell me a little bit more about South Dakota.
It's actually a wonderful state. It's kind of split. We have an east side and a west side, and they're kind of very different. The east side tends to have more of the population, is more Midwestern like Minnesota, Iowa, and then you cross the Missouri River, you get to the west side of the state, and it's a beautiful country. That's where Mount Rushmore is. We have the Badlands out there. It's definitely cowboy territory. We got a lot of ranchers out that way, whereas we have more farmers on the east side of state. But I've just had a really fun time the last couple months just traveling the state, stopping in small towns, talking to people. And it's great because I grew up in a small rural town. And so for me, it's like going home. And so I really feel like I connect with those people.
Excellent. And as you're getting out there, what are the issues you're hearing when you talk to people out
A
in the
lot of
district?
things. Inflation is one of them, and I kind of remind them. Actually, right now, inflation's only at like 2.4%. It's actually really good. So a lot of it is their mindset. But right now, like stocks and stuff are doing good. That tends to hit the upper income people, and it tends to trickle down to the average working class later. So I think they're going to see some relief in a little bit. I hear a lot about healthcare issues, a lot of complaints. I've actually talked to farmers and ranchers that really appreciate the Affordable Care Act because they've been able to get affordable insurance. And yet at the same time, a lot of people are just saying, it's ridiculous what things cost. And I remind them that, under Biden, prescription drug prices have gone down on many of the major ones. And my opponent voted against lowering prescription drug prices. He voted against capping insulin at $35. He voted against the infrastructure bill, which finished the Lewis and Clark water pipeline. And yet he showed up at the ribbon cutting to take credit for it. So he's just kind of the nice guy, but he's a career politician. I think he's eyeing the governorship in 2 years. And I just want somebody, I don't want him getting taxpayer money while he's running for governor.
Are you hearing a big difference in issues between the east side and the west side of the state?
The west side is maybe more like water rights. They have a lot of water issues. They're concerned about some big mining companies coming in, kind of a little bit more environmental, maybe out that way. East side, because there's more population, I hear a lot more about issues like school and childcare issues. All across the state, I hear a lot from small business owners about how they cannot find workers. I've stopped at several different places. Wall, South Dakota is fairly famous tourist place, and they have to hire foreigners every summer for help because they don't have enough. West River, they do a lot more tourism in the summer. They've got the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. They have Mount Rushmore out there. And there too, the hotels, the tourist places, they are just having a hard time finding workers.
Interesting. And is there a big native population as well in South Dakota?
Yes, we have 7 reservations in South Dakota. I've had the opportunity to stop and visit with some of them. They deal with a lot of issues. Crime on the reservation is a problem for a lot of them. They have a big meth problem. And yet at the same time, I'm very encouraged that a lot of the natives are taking the initiative and kind of working to solve problems themselves. But they do get a lot of money from the federal government, and so often that's tied up in red tape. And if, we could free that, because we are under a treaty obligation to provide them with health care, to provide them with schooling. And so often it's just kind of like it takes forever to get to them. I had talked to a superintendent of school out in one of the reservations, and they had got their funding for the school year on time the first semester. The second semester, they didn't get their funding for schools until May, and they should have got it in January. So, and they're just very frustrated because it's kind of like they feel like nobody's watching out for them.
So, of all of these issues that you're hearing, can you give me some points where you and your opponent maybe specifically differ on which side of the issues you fall on?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest areas we differ on is that I'm running to represent the working class, the person that doesn't get a big voice in Washington. He tends to represent the corporate elite. He's got, millions of dollars in a campaign war chest because he goes to country clubs with all these fundraisers. He is a big supporter of ethanol energy, which I actually support it too. But right now, the ethanol companies are trying to force these CO2 pipelines through farmers' lands. Farmers don't want it. It's a dangerous gas. And they feel like they're being bullied by the big corporations. And I'm working to stand up for the farmers on this issue. And he would like to see more of the ethanol stuff come into the state. He's all about making money, for people. And it's making money for the high income people. And it feels like the working families are left behind. So that's who I'm fighting for. The other area we differ a lot on is women's rights. I've got 4 daughters. I don't believe the government has any right to dictate our medical or reproductive care. He is a co-signer of Life Begins at Conception, which if people believe that, that's fine, but we cannot legislate that into law because not everybody agrees with that. And it would be very detrimental to anybody wanting to use IVF to grow their families.
How is that last issue resonating with people that you talk to in South Dakota?
Right now, it's about a 50-50 split. It's on the ballot. Roe versus Wade is on the ballot in our state because currently, when Roe was overturned, we had a trigger law in place. So it went back to 6 weeks. Abortion was allowed up to 6 weeks and no exceptions for rape or incest. So if you had a 12-year-old daughter that was raped, she would be forced to carry that baby to term. I just think that's totally extreme. But we have churches, we have a Defense Life Fund running ads about how vote no on this bill because it's too extreme. It lets them have abortions in third trimester. That is not true. The 50 years that Roe was law in South Dakota, we had 0 third-term abortions. Doctors deliver the babies here. If they can survive, they go to the NICU. If they don't survive, they go to hospice. So we don't have third trimester abortions, but they're all this propaganda. And what's frustrating is the local Catholic churches have spent like $150,000 advertising against Roe versus Wade. They have shown videos in their congregations at churches and made people take home signs against it. So you're actively fighting against a church that a lot of members feel they have to follow.
Well, all right. So, but do you feel like it's having some sort of a shift since the change in law? Have people started to rally a little
I
bit?
think a lot of people have woken up and realized that if we don't fight to protect our women's rights now, we may lose them forever. A lot of people, I'm hoping young people and women get up in arms and realize that it's not for government to make these decisions. Personally, I'm not going to tell people whether, abortion is right or wrong. That's their personal beliefs. But I am not going to give government the power to make these decisions for my daughters or any other daughters in South Dakota.
All right. So now I have to make a bit of an abrupt shift from that. It's a very serious topic, but this is my last question. It's my favorite question. I call this my softball question. But I would like to know what is it about South Dakota that makes it special to you?
Oh, it is just such a beautiful state. And beautiful people, they're kind-hearted. I have spoken to Republicans, independents, libertarians, Democrats, and they all have a basic Midwestern work ethic, take care of the family, they help their neighbors out. Even if their neighbor, maybe they aren't talking to their neighbor right now because their neighbor's a Trumper and they're a Democrat, or their neighbor's a liberal and they're a Trumper. They may be on ends and kind of not talking to each other, but if something happened, they would be the first ones to help each other out. So it's just, I encourage people come here, South Dakota, just travel through the state sometime. It's just a beautiful, beautiful state.
It's fantastic. All right, Sheryl Johnson is running for the U.S. House of Representatives to represent South Dakota's first and only district. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yep. And I would tell people if they want to find out more, they can go to SD Mom for Congress.
Excellent. Please visit that, guys. Thank you and best of luck.
All right. Thank you.